running a company, a well-respected brand, what would you do online? What would you do in the social medias?
So I think where brands start is typically what they'll do is start engaging with the wider conversations. So, let's say you're an airline, you start following, airlines, you start following your competitors, you start seeing what are people saying and start by listening. And then you go in and you create your account and you start replying to some of the conversations. You start particularly looking for mentions of your brand. Are they positive, are they negative, and starting to reply on these services. I think that's really the first step, is to listen and then to create a presence and start responding. So I think that's very much the way that brands have gone about it, and then beyond that they start getting into more advanced things like sentiment analysis and influencer scores, which is to say, hey, this person's really angry and they're also really influential. They have 1 million followers, can we prioritize this one? So I think that's, it's very simple to listen and respond, and then beyond that, I think, these corporations get a little bit more complex and need to understand, okay, this person's having a really negative experience, let's get to them quickly, versus someone just saying, hey, I really like Southwest Airlines.
Is it important to think in a new way for those who haven't yet?
I think brands have always been about human relationships, so I don't think it's new. I think what's changed is that these channels didn't exist before. If you wanted to speak to your customers, you needed to buy a TV ad, you needed to buy a billboard, you needed to buy ads in magazines, and I think they need to adapt a little bit to this more human touch. But I think it's always been a transition, and I think big brands do need to adapt, and I think also small business has been actually quite slow to adopt some of this stuff. But I don't think that particularly big corporations have missed the boat on this one by any means, and there's plenty of time to still get involved. I mean, this stuff's brand new, it's very embryonic. I mean, there's going to be massive growth in social media. So, I mean, Twitter's only been around for a few years, Facebook has been 5 or 6, so it's very, very early days, and I think if brands aren't involved, there's plenty of time to get involved, yeah.
So if you were to give some advice, either to a brand or a company, or to the people, the humans involved, in creating that human brand, what would that be? I mean, you have a short list of things you should do?
Well, I think that the key thing is to listen. That's always the first thing. Start listening before you respond. Nobody likes someone who just talks and talks and talks about themselves and then doesn't listen to what the customer actually wants. I think for people who want to get into it, it's very much a case of just jumping in. I don't think people need to be concerned. I don't think they need to have any kind of anxiety about getting involved, but I think it's just about getting your feet wet, starting to listen, starting to respond, and beyond that, I think you'll learn very quickly what works and what doesn't in the space.
Do you want to get your feet wet? Or?
No. No, I've been watching the people going around the edge here and thinking that someone is going to... Do you want to be the guy?
No.
You can go across
Do
the
you
middle.
want to get your feet wet?